everybody. We are the Green Swamp Squatchers, cryptid and paranormal investigators. This is our first episode, our personal encounters, and aliens and UFOs. I'm your host, Gage.
And I'm Cole.
In this episode, we'll be talking about our own personal UFO encounter and the history and phenomena of UFOs and aliens. All right. So we're going to save all the encounters for later in the episode, and we have planned out the folklore and almost all of the expertise of aliens. So, are you ready to learn about aliens, bud?
Yeah, sure am, buddy. I already know a little bit.
All right, so tell me what you know already.
I know they come from the space, they're gray men, and I've seen one.
Okay, so you've seen one and I've also seen one. So, let me give you a little bit of background on UFOs and aliens.
All right, hit me.
And kind of when they came into the scene. So, they kind of busted out into the American culture in the late 50s and early 60s. Did you know that?
I mean, I would assume so with Roswell and everything.
Oh, okay. So, you know about that? Hollywood put this idea of UFOs and saucers into the limelight with the movie called Earth vs. Flying Saucers in 1956. Have you heard about that, Cole? Ever heard about that movie?
I have not.
Well, it's quite interesting, and we're going to roll a clip of it so our audience can see it.
Your deduction is quite correct, Doctor. Although the objects are not comets, they're meteors controlled by spacecraft of Zagon.
They're going to hit us! They're going to hit us!
So, this put a fear and anxiety into the American population during the Cold War era. So you know about the Cold War.
Yep.
You know about the kind of whole, red wave. Everybody was afraid of the communists living within the United States.
And so they used that to disguise communist planes and stuff as aliens to not scare the American public or something like that, right?
Somewhat. But that idea of communists hiding amongst the American population translated to the aliens. People became anxiety filled that there were extraterrestrials living within their communities and their country.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of put everybody on edge.
Okay.
But aside from all the depictions of UFOs in media, UFOs are also a big part of American folk culture. All right. So, do you know anything about aliens and the history of the United States in the last 70 years?
The last 70?
Since it's really started.
I know about Roswell, but that's about it.
About Roswell?
Yeah.
All right. Do you know anything about abductions?
I mean, like the stuff you see on like the Travel Channel TV shows,
All right. Because of this time in the United States, abductions became a widespread phenomenon in America. The Antonio Villa Boas case from Brazil and the Hill abduction from the United States were the first cases of UFO abduction to gain widespread attention. So, alien abductions refer to the phenomenon of people reporting what they believe to be real experiences being kidnapped by extraterrestrial beings and subject to physical and psychological experimentation. Alien abduction cases started to be reported in the late 50s and early 60s. Many of these claims were brushed aside by the whole of America because they were skeptical of UFOs and the aliens in the first place. They saw it no more than a Hollywood subject.
Okay, so they didn't believe it because Hollywood made
propaganda
for it, yeah.
So, I know you just touched on the Roswell incident, and this was a big turning point for the whole case of aliens. So, the Roswell incident happened in 1947. And it was recovery of a mundane metallic rubber debris from a military balloon that crashed near Corona, New Mexico by the United States Army's Air Force.
So it wasn't a UFO?
That's what is to be believed. That's what they were,
so
that was what were reported to the American public.
Okay, like in the paper, not in the papers, but like in the documents or whatever.
Officers from Roswell Army Field and the conspiracy theorists decades later claiming that the debris involved a flying saucer and that the truth has been covered up by the United States government. On July 8, 1947, Roswell Army Field issued a press release statement that had recovery of a flying disc. The Army quickly retracted the statement and said that instead of a flying disc, it was a conventional weather balloon that crashed. In 1994, the United States Air Force published a report identifying the crashed object as a nuclear test surveillance balloon from Project Mogul.
What is Project Mogul? Or Mogul, whatever you said.
It's just a nuclear... Okay, so Project Mogul was just for nuclear development.
That's it?
That's it. That's all it was.
Russians, right?
No, it was ours. Though it was not really discussed until the 70s, but when retired Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marshall, he said to believe that the debris was recovered from an extraterrestrial craft. So that is where the whole idea of it being a UFO came from.
So just let me hold you there. When you say debris, you mean it wasn't like a whole spaceship? Because I always thought it was a whole ass spaceship.
No, it was parts and pieces of that said, or supposedly said ship.
So it wasn't even like they found like a little man in a disc. It was just metal debris.
Well,
or
we don't know the
it's
full
made
story because like I said, a retired lieutenant colonel, Jesse Marshall, that was there at the scene, believed that the debris was from extraterrestrial craft.
Okay.
So everybody thinks that it has been, covered up by the government.
Okay.
All right. So this leads into Area 51. Do you know about Area 51? I feel like everyone does.
Doesn't. Yeah.
All right. So Area 51, as you know, is a very well-known military base where a lot of government secrets are kept. Tests are done that should be secretive. They won't tell you anything about Area 51. Many people relate aliens and UFOs to Area 51. This was only fueled by the fact that Area 51 highly guarded their base during the Cold War, not only on ground, but from satellites.
So, kind of still on topic, I have heard other rumors that people think it's just for cryptids in general, and not just aliens.
Yeah, people do believe that. I've heard some theories about that.
Do you believe that?
To an extent, I believe the United States government has a lot of cryptids in their, reservoir that they've captured. But I don't know if they're all stored at Area 51. All right. A lot of people believe that they have somehow managed to capture ships and terrestrials themselves and housing and testing them within the walls of Area 51. So, mainly, the media just believes that it's just aliens that they keep there because it is a very big hotspot for UFOs.
Okay.
Down in New Mexico and Arizona area.
My problem with the idea of catching aliens is how do you get caught when you're like a millennia ahead of the species you're with? You know what I mean?
Well,
I mean, that's like getting captured. Like if we went back in time and getting captured by like a I don't know, like a Neanderthal.
Well, I mean, well, let me put it this way. If you went back in time,
yeah,
and, say you brought some futuristic shit with you, like, you brought like a pistol, a sword, and, you don't think that 30 Neanderthals could overpower you and catch you?
Not with a pistol, no, bro.
I mean, how big Neanderthals were?
I know, but one shot to the dome, brother.
But their dome was pretty hard, bro.
I mean, I guess. I don't know, actually. How do you know?
Because I'm a researcher.
Fair enough.
All right.
Normal investigators up in here. The myth of the Neanderthal.
All right, so Area 51 has been known for the following. The storage, examination, and reverse engineering of crashed alien spacecrafts, including the materials supposedly recovered from Roswell. People believe that they have been reverse engineering own spaceships to further engineer ours.
Okay. And that's why we got so technologically advanced in the last, 50 years.
It's a really big theory. People also believe that they hold meetings or joint undertakings with extraterrestrials.
Kind of like lizard people vibes.
Kind of, more like Men in Black. They also believe that they develop exotic energy weapons for strategic defense initiatives or other offensive weapons. So, you know how like in Halo they had like the energy swords? And in Star Wars they have blaster blazers?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't going to say it.
People think that they're making weapons like that can advance us thousands of years into the future.
Okay.
And that's a highly believed theory. People also believe that they are working on weather control technology and time travel in Area 51.
Weather control, that would make sense, considering climate change and everything.
Yeah. So now that we kind of went over the backstory and information of Area 51, I want to touch on Ancient Aliens briefly.
Okay.
Just since it's a big conspiracy throughout all the alien world. So, do you know anything about Ancient Aliens?
I've watched the show a lot. I used to have a friend that had a sticker of the guy that would go like that. I don't remember what the phrase was, but you know, or it's just aliens or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Do you know anything they have supposedly done?
I know it's like all the big things like Easter Island, Stonehenge, pyramids, basically anything made out of stone that people don't believe humans could have made without machinery.
You're right on, bro. All right, so some of them were Stonehenge, the pyramids, Easter Islands. People believe that Ancient Aliens had a hand to deal with it because many people don't believe that humans at that age and time had the technology to haul 2-ton slabs of stone to the Stonehenge or pull up 1-ton sandstone bricks to make pyramids.
Now, I get why people would, but I feel like people forget how powerful simple machines can be sometimes, like pulley and levers and, you know, wedges and all that stuff.
Okay, so, but how would you support simple machines when Stonehenge has 16 3-ton plus rocks that are said to be founded 60 miles away from the actual site of Stonehenge?
See, I get what you're saying, but if I were to tell you I moved, like at work, if I told you I moved a 1,000-pound pallet today, you would assume that I didn't just push a pallet across the store and then it just got there magically. You know, I had something with wheels that made it lighter.
But at the time of the Stonehenge, simple machines like that were not invented or were not known of at that time. They have yet to reach ancient Europe.
No, I don't know.
That covers everything with aliens. I'm not going into too much detail because probably more episodes about aliens as we go on with the podcast.
Hey, are you liking this episode of the... Hey, are you liking this episode of the Green Swamp... Hey, are you liking this episode of the Green Swamp Squatchers, Cryptid and Paranormal Investigators? Well, if you do, support us by going to our sponsor in the link below. Cinnamon Roll Films at both eBay and TikTok. Thank you to Cinnamon Roll Films and More for sponsoring this episode. Back to the podcast.
All right, so for this part of our podcast, we're going to be going into our personal encounters and other personal encounters and real-life sightings. So first we're going to start with the sightings, and we're going to play some videos on the screen for y'all to see, but I'm going to show Cole these videos, and he's going to tell me what he thinks about them.
I'm a hard critic.
He's a hard critic. And at the end of this, we are going to discuss if we think everything that we've talked about and all these sightings are believable or not. The first video that you're going to see is called Zaxby's Chicken Bacon Ranch. This is called Pentagon Official Releases UFO Video.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. Oh my gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing! It's rotating. Nickel 6-1 Tango Logic. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger. There's troubleshooting. What the fuck is that? Did you box moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at that, man. Look at it fly.
So that y'all just saw that video by The Guardian. It was a CIA released footage of what they believe to be a UFO. So Cole, tell me what you thought about that video and if you think that is believable as a UFO.
So like I didn't at first. So like it rotate. I know like it was shaped. At first it kind of looked like, you know how like they always do that like flying man bit where it's like there's a man flying in the sky. Mm-hmm. But it kind of looked like a saucer, and it's just rotating. Like, and I get it that like it could be moving, or it's like up that high. But when it started moving as fast as it showed it, gotta be an alien.
It's gotta be an alien. All right, so we also have one more. This is a YouTube Shorts video published by USA Today, and it is. The description is tadpole-shaped UFO mesmerizes onlookers in China. This was taken on the China shore in one of their inlet canals. And a group of 17 people saw this and recorded it. And no one has been able to give an explanation on what it is since. All right, so we're gonna roll the clip for you guys so you can see it while Cole's watching. All right, so now everybody saw that and Cole's seen it. What do you think of that?
I don't think it's an alien. It might be a UFO in the traditional sense where it's just like an unidentified flying object. But it really just looked like something burning up in the atmosphere. Like maybe they were testing something, trying to see how well something held up launching and stuff like that. But like...
Okay, well, then how do you explain the light trails following it? But so you saw the light trails were following it and they were still intact. Why did the light decide to disperse when people were around?
You mean like, but it's just like chemtrails, like from planes.
Possibly. I thought it looked like light. I thought it looked like it was illuminating.
No, I thought it just looked like chemtrails.
Well, Cole thinks that it's a, what'd you say?
Just like something burning in the atmosphere.
I think it's a UFO trying to light up its surroundings to look at the people. So, you guys tell us in the comments on those two videos what you think they are, if you think those are believable. But we're going to get into some story-based real-life accounts. These are all factual. We had our editor behind the camera. He took them and he made them to a first-person narrative so we can say it in the podcast. So this is the story on the hills. Imagine going on a spontaneous 3-day road trip and ending up abducted by visitors from another planet. This is what will supposedly happen to Betty and Barney Hill. The Hills road trip was spontaneous. Barney worked a grueling night shift at the post office, driving 60 miles each way. Betty's job, handling state child welfare cases was no easier. The little free time this biracial couple had was devoted to the church and activities related to the civil rights movement. Betty and Barney saw this trip through the Montreal and Niagara Falls as their delayed honeymoon. They left so impulsively they had no time to go to the bank before it closed for the weekend. They got in their car with less than $70 in their pockets. On the last night of their 3-day trip, the tired couple sipped coffee in the Vermont diner to recharge before driving back. Barney figured if they pushed through, they could beat the wind and rain from an approaching hurricane. They left the diner around 10 p.m., estimating they could reach their red-framed house in Portsmouth, New Hampshire between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. at the latest. As they drove, strange lights in the sky gave another reason to hurry. At first, it looked like fallen stars, but grew larger and brighter with each mile. Barney, an avid plane watcher and World War II veteran, was sure that they had nothing to worry about. It's just a satellite, he assured. It probably went off their course. The light seemed to move with the car as Barney steered down the curvy mountain road. The lights zigzagged, ducking past the moon and behind trees and mountain ridges, only to reappear moments later. The couple pulled over at road stops and picnic turnouts to get a closer look. Through binoculars, Benny saw that the white lights was really an object spinning in the air. About 70 miles past the diner, the object hovered above the treetops, approximately 100 feet above them. Barney abruptly stopped the car, keeping the engine running. He shoved a handgun he's hidden beneath his seat into his pocket and rushed into the dark field, leaving Betty in the car. What he saw was as big as a jet, but as round and flat as a pancake. Behind rows of windows, gray uniformed beings seemed to look right at him. Barney recalled, as he tried to lift his hands from his pistol, but somehow couldn't, a voice told him to put down his binoculars. Yelling hysterically, he ran back to the car and barreled down the road without explanation. Loud, rhythmic beeps sounded from the car's trunk. The couple felt instantly drowsy and lost consciousness. In the coming years, Betty suffered from disturbing dreams, and Barney developed an ulcer and anxiety. The couple sought mental help. The two met with Benjamin Simon, a psychiatric and neurologist who specialized in hypnosis. The Hills experience and subsequent psychiatric sessions were chronicled in the book Captured, the Betty and Barney Hill Experience. The couple, through hypnosis, described what they thought happened to them, and that night and the events they described are still talked about and debated to this day. All right, cool. So you just heard about Betty and Barney Hill.
Okay.
Tell me what you thought about that story. Things that stood out to you, things that, make you skeptical about it.
My first thought is a lot of these stories always just seem to be from was he Navy?
He was...
Or Air Force, right?
He was just a World War II veteran.
Oh. They always seem to be just like veterans in general. Just an observation, not really like a thing. I think it's interesting. I don't know. He probably saw it. I don't know why. I get why he would make his wife stay in the car. But the fact that he had his wife stay in the car kind of loses credibility towards it,
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, so...
I don't remember what else happened.
What did you think about the unidentified object zigzagging and ducking behind mountain ridges and trees as they're following them down the roads?
When was this? 1950s, 60s?
1960s.
That would definitely be scary. Nowadays, I don't think so, between, the amount of drones and just, how more advanced we are. But I could see, 60 years ago, you see something moving like that in the middle of the night. You'd be scared about aliens, or just Cold War's in it at that point, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the voice he heard telling him to put down his binoculars as he was looking into the spaceship and he saw these gray uniformed people?
Again, since he was the only one, it's just hard to, believe him. If his wife went with him and his wife also heard it or saw it, I would give them the benefit of the doubt. But I mean, it could have happened.
Okay, and last point about this encounter. The things that happened to them in the car that made them drowsy, made them lose 2 hours of time, and the hypnosis that they went under. How do you describe that? They both had loss of time. He developed anxiety and ulcers, and she had what's it called?
Nightmares.
Disturbing dreams.
So nightmares.
Yes, and they went to hypnosis. They went to a hypnotist to see repressed memories.
So like I get how having those symptoms after that would scare you, but I don't like the idea of a hypnosis because so many people have talked about how if someone has never encountered an alien and you go under hypnosis and it asks you about an alien, that your brain can just make up what you want, and that's why a lot of the cases are usually so similar.
Okay, so for the first encounter with Benny and Barney Hill, are you a non-believer, skeptical, or a believer?
I think I'm a firm skeptic.
Okay, I personally am a skeptic as well. You kind of had all the points on it, but I think there is some concrete evidence throughout the whole narration of it. So that was the Betty and Barney Hill experience, and now we're going to move on to the Berkshire. When numerous residents of Berkshire County, Massachusetts, individually reported having seen a UFO on September 1st, 1969, authorities were at a loss for an explanation. This wasn't a lone sighting induced by sleep deprivation that could have been easily dismissed. It truly appeared as though something uncanny has occurred. On the evening in question, residents spotted lights above the Sheffield and southern Berkshires. Many of the witnesses said that the lights were fitted with an identified disc-shaped craft that was maneuvering in unpredictable ways. Some witnesses claimed that they lost track of time and gazed with the stunned fascination of the object. Thomas Reed was 9 years old at the time. In a car with his mother, brother, and grandmother that night, the family noticed a group of glowing orbs dashing out of the roadside trees. Reed claimed that something astounding happened when heading home as his family approached the Sheffield Bridge. It came to a stop on the right side of the road, he recalled, of all the glowing orbs. Everything got really calm. It was like we were in the middle of a hurricane. There was a barometric change in pressure. It was just like a dead silence, and there was an eruption of crickets and frogs, and it got really loud, and that was it. Then the family suddenly found itself back in the car, but they had inexplicably lost 2 hours of memory. Strange, Reed's mother and grandmother had somehow switched car seats. Despite any tangible evidence of the Berkshire UFO incident, Reed has remained steadfast in his account. He said that over time, the family regained some of the memories of the incident, including having a hangar-like facility with named people in it in their experiences. We encountered something, Reed said. It was definitely not of this world. The hangar that we were in was huge. It was larger than a football field. This hallway that we had seen was circular with a wide configuration, almost to control the flow of traffic. This one room had bowed in a wall and was rounded. It's important to remember that Reed was only one of the dozen people who reported witnessing a UFO at the Sheffield area that night. Some were adults who called into the local radio station to report a sighting. Others were children who began drawing UFOs in class. There must have been 20 or 30 sketches that were drawn by children in the 4th grade class from what they saw, said Reed. They hung underneath in the class board in Sheffield School Center. More than one of those hang in the Roswell Museum today. People don't realize the significance of this, and so it wasn't just us. So, for the second narration, because it had 20 to 30 people that saw it, do you believe that is more credible than the Barney Hill experience?
Yes. A lot of them are kids, though, right?
Many adults called into radio stations, kids, and Reed's family actually had a loss of 2 hours in memory. And very disturbing things happened to him.
Now, there wasn't any signs that they got abducted, right?
False.
I mean, like, on their bodies.
No.
The only thing was the fact that the two had swapped seats, and they all lost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that aliens isn't a possibility, but there's a lot of things in the world that can cause amnesia like that, especially mass amnesia.
Okay, but how do you feel about their repressed memories coming back, and the specific memory of the hanger, the Y-shaped hanger, that was oval shaped?
I mean,
that seems like pretty tangible evidence to me.
I wouldn't consider quote-unquote repressed memories being tangible evidence. Now I feel like talking here, I'm making it seem like I don't believe in aliens. I do. I think they're real. But there's just... I just don't... I get that people saw it, and again, it could be like that short we saw where it was, you know, something that is explainable. You know what I mean? And just, you can't really rely on someone's sudden repressed memories, air quotes,
Okay.
being your only concrete evidence. And I get that people saw it and they are drawing saucers. But again, like the stereotypical weather balloon, you know.
All right, you got a good point there. So, do you lie on the non-believer, skeptical, or believer on this story itself?
Skeptical only because so many people saw it.
I think I'm a believer. Since I've been talking so much, and we do share the same in our own personal encounter, I'm going to let you explain the personal encounter.
Okay.
So these are the stories, the first-hand accounts that are not ours. Y'all tell us what you guys believe about them in the comments, if you think they're credible, skeptical. But we're going to get into our own personal encounter. I'm going to let Cold tell it. We share the same encounter. He hasn't had much chance to talk, and I think he has a better way of explaining it. But both of us saw it that night, and I'm going to let him take it away. I'm going to let him get the center screen limelight.
Now, for this, I'm going to have you explain your point of view, too, because when we both retell this story a lot. And I feel like I saw it from a different perspective than you did. So as kids, we shared a bedroom. You know, small house, 1 bedroom, whatever, it's fine. We had a window that was always open. The curtains were never closed. And I woke up, I don't know, probably say 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. I just could not sleep. And I'm looking up at the moon because I was lower to the ground because there's like a weird bunk bed situation. And I noticed another light source in my yard. And the way I saw it from laying down there, if you have like, this is the ground, and you got the tops of the trees right here. Right here, there was right in like maybe 3 or 4 feet above the ground, there was a pulsing orb. It almost looked like a huge head, like floodlight. But you know how like you can see the extended brightness off of a light? There was no extended brightness. The brightness was all contained in the orb. And I sat there and I watched it for maybe 20 minutes. And it just stood there, and it would go up and down about a foot, like it was sitting there and just levitating off the ground. I eventually woke him up, Because I was scared shitless, bro.
Well, he woke me up. He shook me on my shoulder. He woke me up. What I remember is he woke me up by shaking me on my shoulder, and he told me to come down on the ground quick. I was on the top bunk. And so I climbed down the little ladder we had, and he pointed at it. And he said, "What is that?" And like he described, it was, I'd say probably 5 feet off the ground. You know, I'd say probably a softball shaped light, about the size of a softball, maybe a little bit bigger. Kind of not emitting the light, but glowing as it is a light itself. And what I saw is it moved 2 feet up, paused for a couple seconds, moved 2 feet back down. And at that point, you know, I saw that and I couldn't explain it. I was pretty scared. Yeah. So I remember going to my dad's room and getting my dad to see what it was. And we have this big sliding glass door that saw right into our backyard. And when I came back with my dad, we couldn't, I didn't see it anymore.
Yep, it was gone.
It was like it vanished, like it knew that we were grabbing more people to see it. Like it didn't want more things to see what it was. But definitely very scary. It wasn't like an orb of light, how it was related to Sasquatch and poltergeist. It wasn't like an orb of light, like a ball of light that was reported with them.
You just hit me with a curveball when you said orb of light with Sasquatch, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
So how old were you guys when you guys saw this?
This was 10 years ago, roughly.
Yeah, I was about.
Which would make you guys what age?
I was like 13-ish.
I was roughly 10 years old, and it would bounce. It didn't have as much of a color. It was kind of white with a little bit of yellow in it.
Yeah.
Like he said, kind of like a floodlight. But that's something that he said you didn't see. Things around it weren't lit up. Like it wasn't someone in our backyard with a headlight on, because you couldn't see anything else illuminated around it. And I think that's what kind of scared me the most, because you don't know what that is.
So I'm going to interject some questions that I think a lot of people in the comments will have about your personal story. The first one I want to ask is, what do you guys think it was?
I don't fucking know. It's like, I don't know. It feels too small to be aliens. But like it could be. It was flying, and it wasn't an identified object.
Personally, I think it was not quite a spirit or a Sasquatch, because it didn't behave like the orbs of light that they have. It moved quite a bit. Normally with poltergeist and Sasquatch, they don't move as much. They only have slight movements. I think that it is extraterrestrials. I think, maybe cloaking. They were cloaking themselves. Or just something from not this world was out there, and they were curious.
Now, I know that we're going to have an episode next week about Sasquatch in and of itself, but I think some people will be confused when you keep saying this orb of light might or might not have been associated with Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Could you elaborate a little bit about what that means?
Yes. Many researchers and many people who report Sasquatch sightings also report seeing orbs of light on their property at the time or around the time of seeing Sasquatch. And a lot of people believe that he's an interdimensional being, and that is him coming and going into this world and into his own dimension. That's a very big thing in the Sasquatch community. A lot of people get a lot of hate for it, especially within the BRFO. People don't want to believe that, but I feel if you want to know the whole truth, you have to take into accounts these, I don't want to say coincidences, because they're too common to being associated with them. But
a couple more questions before we wrap up the personal encounter. Cole said something earlier when you guys were talking about certain stories, that because some of the people who saw the sighting were of a younger age, it made them less credible. Now, do you guys think that because of your ages, this could have been misconstrued as something else in your heads?
I mean, like, I've thought about that. Because, like, sometimes when you're from that angle, the moon can be reflected on the glass. But, like, when we moved and looked out the back window, or our back glass door window, it was still in the same spot.
I think my beliefs is different to Cole with children and children's sightings. I believe that supernatural beings, or cryptid animals, tend to reveal themselves to children more often, because it's more of like a safety net. Say, a child says, hey, I saw this alien look through my window last night. No one's gonna believe them. It's kind of, it's more of a, they can watch people if they're curious, but they want to go for a child more because, no one's gonna take a child seriously. Like, say if, Cole said he saw the alien at the window, and he told our parents that, they would not believe him. Not one bit. So I think children's sightings are more credible than adult sightings. Because say if a sheriff or, a police officer saw that, they document it into their records within the state, within the government. And you kind of have to take that seriously. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And adults more often don't lie as much. Or they're believed not to lie. If they saw something like this, why would they lie about it? Well, I think the same goes for children. Children don't have a reason to lie. The children are good in nature. They're innocent. They don't know what they saw, so why would they make something up? Especially us. When we were kids, I didn't watch alien shows or things like that on the History Channel. I was pretty scared of them, so I didn't like watching stuff like that. So I didn't know anything about aliens. So I think that in itself makes us more credible, not less credible.
If you guys had a chance to debunk this 100%, and somebody came by and told you this is 100% what this experience was, would you rather this experience be an apparition or a ghost, or would you rather it be a confirmed sighting of an alien or a UFO?
An alien.
An alien. I think the ghost thing, I don't think it could have been a ghost. But also, I wouldn't want it to be a ghost because I don't like ghosts. I think they're pretty scary.
The one's been gone, and that means the other one, if it was a ghost, that means the ghost could still be here.
Yeah, it could still be on the property. It could still, maybe it was just passing by. Maybe if it was a ghost, it was just passing by. But I think it'd be more sound-minded if it was an alien, because it has more of a chance of not coming back, not staying around. As if a ghost, maybe the reason we saw, if it was a ghost, maybe the reason we saw it was because it's tied to the land that we're on. Maybe it's tied to an object in the woods behind our house. I think
you guys haven't seen this since, have you?
No, not once. No.
My last question before we wrap up the personal experiences is, if you guys had an opportunity to see this apparition again, would you take the opportunity?
No.
Yes. I would 100% want to see it again.
I'm a scaredy cat, so.
I think if we were able to see it again, I think maybe it would answer more questions. Now that we're older, I'm 20 years old, he's 24 years old. Maybe we'd actually be able to maybe get it on camera, maybe just for our own peace of mind, we could maybe know what it was. But I'd want to see it again, yes.
So today we talked about encounters of an otherworldly kind, ones of the present and past, and of our own experience. Let me know what y'all thought about this episode down in the comments and any of your own experiences. We would love to hear them. We have a new podcast every Sunday. Our next one will be on the big man himself, Bigfoot. Until then, stay squatching, my friends.
Stay squatching. All right.